Athens. Oh, hi guys. I hope the sound is on now. Um, I am painting some orcs, and for now I'm just using contrast on this first guy here. This is on top of a cenithal base, so this is just adding a bit to the contrast effect, basically. But for the first orc here, this is just going to be pure contrast as we go. And for the second one, I'm going to start modulating it so you guys can see the difference between the two techniques. Most of you will know by now that contrast puts in some really nice shades and highlights as you work with it. So just the basic version here that I'm using right now is going to give me 3 effective layers in one go, which is really nice. My goal for this stream is thanks Arnold. My goal for this stream is to paint these guys tabletop ready, maybe tabletop plus even. We'll see how it goes. And then I'll be adding stuff like final highlights, eye details, fingernails, stuff like that later on. These are eventually going to end up in a kill team of mine. So they're going to be joined by a few more, and the plan is to bring them for some gaming later this year over in England. So they need to look nice, but they're not going to be display level miniatures. Right, so the first guy here, almost done with the skin, and I mean, this is nicer than I would get with a single acrylic layer for sure, so that's already nice. But for the second one, I'm going to be using these same techniques, and there we go. Yeah, I'm going to be using these same techniques, but I'm going to be adding in some basic acrylic and modulating it. There we are. That's the first guy. Already a nice looking orc skin. I'm using orc flesh contrast color here. I just poured them in some dropper bottles. I prefer those, but you know, whatever you guys feel like. So for the second one, just gonna grab a 71009 duck egg green, get it on the palette here, and I will be using that for some highlights. And in addition to that, I'm going to be using the 71002 medium yellow, which I'm going to be used to modulate it slightly over into a more yellowish hue. This guy has a fair bit more skin than the previous guy, so I need to work a bit faster. I want the effect to really take, but I'm going to start off with the contrast green. Got some visitors over here. So I'm basically just getting the contrast onto the entire surface of the back here. trying to work fast because I don't want it to set before I add in my modulation colors. If it does set, I can generally get it to soften up again, as long as I work fairly fast, but it's always easier if it doesn't actually have time to do so. Right, so that's the back. I'm just going to get the other shoulder here. I'm actually on purpose not going to go on to the face right now because I want to do that separately afterwards. So, back, shoulders, and arms. Here we go. Alright, and there we go. So, I've already got the basic effect of the contrast going on here, which is nice, but I'm just going to deepen that. I'm just going to work in the duck egg green here and pull up the highlight tone here and there, and this sort of defies part of the idea with contrast because I'm now actually going in and manually highlighting, but it does allow me to work on the effects and add a bit of yellow tint to it, and if I think it's too much, I'll just go back to the contrast, pull that back in. So at this point, I'm actually approaching something that functions more like watercolors. Not sure what's going on with my camera here today. I'm really sorry about the lighting quality. Yeah. But what I'm doing here is I'm actually taking in a bit of the medium yellow and just layering that into the still wet contrast so I can get a bit more interest into the shoulders here. There we go. Alright, so this is actually starting to set now, which means that as I add in my colors, I risk having edges, which I definitely do not want. So I'm actually going to leave the back like this for now, move on to the next area, get some skin tone in there. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try and answer them as I go here. Just going to work on the hands a bit. I'm going to do each hand separately because I want to pay special attention to the fingers. Hands and faces are always one of those focus areas. So I want to make sure they look good. There we go. So one hand. And again, just grabbing a bit of that duck egg green, modulating. There we go. Just trying to control the highlights a bit. Actually going to go back to the shoulder and just pull that down a bit. There we go. So, of course, all the normal techniques are still going to work on top of this. So, I can still use dry brushing and washes and whatever I feel like on top of this, but this just adds another level to the very initial layers. So I get even more coverage, even more interest out of that first contrast layer. Right, do the other hand here. Actually working with miniature holders here today. Grabbed some of the Citadel ones a while back. I tried swearing them off for a long while, didn't really believe in them, but they do actually work. And there's a ton of different ones around, so whether you want to use on-brand stuff or you want to use any of the hundreds of different types that are out there, try them out. They actually do help a lot. I still know quite a few people who don't use them, of course. I mean, it's all a matter of personal taste. But for me, at least, it really, really helps me keep hold of my miniatures so I can paint for longer without getting tired in my hands. Right, so face is coming along here nicely. Actually, thinking I'm gonna add some skin tone to the very front of the face, just to further show what's possible with blending in the contrasts here. I'll grab me a red one. There we go. This is the Blood Angels red. Adding a few drops of that to the mix. Right now it's going to look like lipstick, which is not that nice, but as I work it in, it's actually going to blend in quite nicely around the lips and mouth area here. There we go. Yep. You could equally as easily use a purple or another tone here. I'm just using the red because I had it handy. And there we go. A bit more interest to the face. Yep. You can even actually use water to blend these further. Works kind of nicely. So, it's got a scar on his left side of his face here, so I'm gonna work that in a bit. There we go. And that's the skin tone on both miniatures done. Right. So next up, I'm just gonna grab. Let's see. Yeah, let's go with Skeleton Horde, which is very nice light brown. And then I'm gonna grab some Nasdrag Yellow, which is a weird yellowish brown tone. And let's see what is gonna be the third one. Grab the Snakebite Leather, which is probably my favorite contrast actually. Works really, really well for a bunch of different stuff. But for these two, I'm gonna just put in. I've put in the Snakebite. That's gonna be the stupid bottles. It's gonna be the Nasdrag Yellow and the Skeleton Horde. And there we go. Yep. Okay. So, starting off here with Snakebite for the trousers of the first guy here. And again, basically just working kind of fast so I can modulate this further afterwards. I really want to do the trousers as one area, so I'm gonna try and work quite fast here as well. Here we go. Looking in the trouser area, boom. Here we are. And then I'm actually just gonna get some Nasdrag Yellow in there and start blending these together, because that's gonna give me a faded look to the trousers, which works well considering this is a orc we're dealing with, so he's not gonna have amazingly well kept gear. I'm also gonna bring in the Aged White. I use this one a lot because it works really well for highlighting any number of colors, and it does so without taking the color out. If you use a pure white, a lot of the time you're going to end up having a lighter color, but you're actually going to use, or you're going to lose a lot of your original life from the area. By using a off-white eggshell color, I make sure that I retain most of my original color, but I add in the highlights that I need. There we go. And just with a little bit of the aged white, I've already completely changed the outlook of this color. Again, this is acting more like a watercolor than it is an acrylic at this point, so I'm just treating it as such. Just gonna do the wristbands on this guy. I think we're gonna have one of them in the snake bite and then one of them in a lighter color, because I do actually want to vary the tones on this guy to show that they're using scavenged equipment. They're not getting this stuff out of an armory somewhere. It is actually battlefield loot that they've accumulated. Okay. Yep. So let's see what's good. Try the wildwood actually. It's a bit more reddish, and as long as we're in brown tones, you can actually switch back and forth between them fairly easily without it ruining the look of the model. I'm going to try and see if I can't keep this guy in mostly browns, grays, and then the green of the skin for contrast. Of course, I'm going to be doing some fast metals for their weapons. And see if I can't cover that actually during this stream. You guys can see some really fast contrast methods. There we go. Is the belt in there? Yep. Okay. And need to do the boots as well. I'm going to do those in a short while. Switching to the other guy here. I think we're going to use the wildwood for his trousers. These are push fit miniatures, and I actually haven't done that much to them because they're tabletop miniatures. But for push fit miniatures, they're really, really nice. I know a lot of people love the old boys, the old kit. I did too, but these are so nicely dynamic, and since I mostly do skirmish stuff, I'm not too worried about having two of the same miniature because I'm rarely going to be using more than 10 anyways. I do see it for people who play the orcs as a horde army. You want more variety. A lot of that is still available, but it's now gonna take some cutting and gluing to actually make that happen, which, I mean, I get why people would be annoyed about that. So again, I'm just gonna pull in the aged white here and use it to completely change the look of my color here. I'm just putting it into the contrast color, still wet in there, and you're gonna get much more of a random faded look to these trousers, more of a old miskept leathery look to them. I can deepen this again. I can deepen this later on with some stippling, but as it looks right now, it's already pretty good. So last red yellow, I'm just going to use that on its own for his vest here. Had a really annoying spill, which is something that happens with these dropper bottles, so I'm going to get a new kind as soon as possible. If you guys have any that you really recommend, let me know. But yeah, so just painting his top here. And these guys are most likely gonna end up as bad moons. That's the vehicles I've got at the moment. They're gonna end up in those colors, and the Nasdrag yellow is just perfect because it's clearly a yellow, but it's very, very dark, very, very faded, which really works for the orcs. So here we go, and get underneath this throat there, and once more grabbing the aged white, layering it in there, starting to modulate, and lightening up the tone here, getting a really dappled look to it. There we are. Boom. Here we are. And get this stomach here as well. Already coming along nicely. Yep. So I'm just going to put in the base layers for the metals. Actually going to do those with Black Templar. Get a few drops of that in here. Using a fairly large brush, by the way, and this is by no means a fancy brush. In my experience, contrast does tend to treat your brushes kind of badly. But I mean, it's a technique for painting fast, so I don't need my very best brushes anyways. It's fine. I'm just going to paint in the entire gun in Black Templar here. I'm going to go ahead and use that for all of the things that I eventually want to paint metal. So I'm just going to quickly do that. And I should definitely drill that barrel, but that's a job for another day. So, that Black Templar just going in there. And as soon as this is dry, which should be in just a minute or 3, I will show you guys the Speedy metal technique that I use. And here we go. Alright. Boom. That's the gun. Just going to do the belt buckle on the back here. It's got some metal shod shoes as well. Get the caps of the shoes here. There we go. Probably get these spikes on the bottom as well. Quickly do the toe on the other foot here. There we are. And like so. And finally the buckle up front here. There we are. So I think that's mostly the metal's done. And if I wanted to, I could probably just leave the gun in black and just move on to the next area. I'm actually going to use snake bite with a bit of the wildwood in there for the shoes, for the first layer. And then I'm going to come back in a while and I'm going to hit them with a wash on top to further darken them. This way I make sure that his clothes are actually getting darker as we approach the ground, which is fine. It's going to make him blend in better once I get him based up. So here we go. Boots. Pretty much done there. To the front here. And underneath the other there. Yep. And again, I mean, the black isn't even dry yet here. I'm just painting in between the bits. He's got a belt feed on his gun. Let me see. Ideas for belt color? Thoughts are welcome. Might do it in reddish brown, actually. Because that's, again, an opportunity for blending in. There we go. Oh, pouch on the belt there. Yep. Yeah, let's go with the red. So, bit of the Blood Angels red again. Start off with that one mixed into the Nastrag and paint the belt. There we go. It's very yellowish red right now. That's fine. I can modulate it as I go down. And here we go. And again, any sort of painting outside of the belt itself and hitting the shells doesn't really matter a lot, because I'm gonna hit those with gold in just a short while, and it'll all get covered up nicely. Right, so there we go. That's the belt. Let's see, I actually do need a bit more of the black template in there. Okay, so blacks are mostly dry at this point, so I'm gonna grab my secret weapon. Just a second. So this is Vallejo Mecha Color Dark Steel. And I'm going to grab a dry brush. Just a second, guys. Nice. Right. So what I did for the metals here is I used the Mecha Color Dark Steel 69065, and I actually just dry brush it on top of the black. Yeah, sorry Arnold, I had I had people by the booth, so I just said hi for a couple of seconds here. But what I do with the metals here is I basically just dry brush it in on top of the black, and as long as I cover the edges, the entire gun is actually going to look really nicely metallized. And eventually I'm going to put a layer of probably Nuln Oil or a dark wash anyways on top.
Hello.
Hey!
It wasn't over temple forward.
Aw, fuck. Just got a guest who handed me a Warhammer badge from the Scouts, which is cool. Tack. So, with the metal bits done there, I am just going to grab some Retribute Armor. Definitely one of my favorite golds at the moment because it's got ridiculously good coverage. And I'm going to grab a better brush for that. And I'm just going to start painting in the shells for his gun here. There we go. And getting quite close to actually finishing this guy during the stream here, so that's cool. In a few minutes, I am going to go mingle again, but I will be back later this afternoon in an hour or so with a second stream on terrain, and that is going to focus mainly on pigments and modulation on top of the base layers. I did a short stream this morning which focused on base layers, and now I'm going to look at finishing touches for modulating both my rusts and my greens and light browns for the terrain. Right, just getting in there on the rest of these shells here. Again, I'm probably going to hit this with a wash in a while, but already I'm very, very close to being done here. I'm just going to find, let me see, one more contrast, and it will be going to go with the skeleton horde, I think. Yep. Skeleton horde for just the teeth, a few dags, and he's got this skull taped to his belt. Always remember, orcs are not nice people. And there we go. And nails, just for the first layer there. Teeth, get those painted in. There we go. Actually, just noticing that I missed the shell that's being ejected from the gun. Orcs not famous for their ballistic accuracy, more for the weight of bullets that they actually bring to bear. Daka is all. Right, so he's got some nice little earrings over here. Give them some Retribute Armor as well. There we are. Yep. So for the final touch, I'm actually going to start his base. And I brought, let me see. There we go. Brought some Armageddon dust. Armageddon is as good a place as anywhere for orcs. I'm just going to pop him off his base here very shortly. There we are. And get some of that Armageddon dust. I'll do the base edges eventually, I promise. But for right now, I just want to really quickly show you how I do the bases for these guys. Again, I want to keep this fairly fast flowing. These are rank and file for most armies, so you don't want to spend days on each miniature. So I've got the Armageddon dust on there. It is very much still, and while it's still wet, I'm actually just going to place him back on his base. So he's going to be in contact with the base. There we go. So he now appears to be sprinting across the sand here. And as soon as this dries a bit, I'm going to add some tufts to it. Probably just sticky tufts, maybe a few brushes. I'll get some pictures up of that a bit later on. But that's basically my 30-minute orc here. Thanks for joining. It's great having you, Arnold. Thanks for letting me know when I lost the sound. It's good to have you. I will see you guys in an hour or so.